Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to my self-driving car evaluation for July 2024. The idea behind this test was, okay, self-driving cars are somewhere in the future off on the horizon, but what's the best available right now? What is actually the best that each of these manufacturers has to offer? And so the idea was, I'm gonna get my hands on all of them and test them all at once on the same exact route, the same time of day, same traffic, same everything, and take notes and see which one's better. I'm actually going to do a tier list, I think. Just give my opinion on which ones are good at certain things and bad at certain things. So, I got my hands on the best from the Mustang. So Ford, GM, Mercedes, Tesla, and BMW. Back to back to back to back to back, testing them all and seeing what they're good at. And so, without any further ado, let's just jump in. These are my results. So the first car we jumped in was the Ford Mustang Mach-E. So that's Ford's Blue Cruise. Blue Cruise I have some experience with in the past. We did that 1,000-mile road trip where we had the Mach-E also and used Blue Cruise a lot for that. But Blue Cruise, on the route that we took, here are my notes. It's fine. It handles regular roads like kind of like a grandma. The following distances are all kind of far, meaning you can change the follow distance to be as close as possible or as far as possible, and all of those distances were kind of far, but that's fine. It just means you're going to get cut off more often, and you kind of have to be okay with getting slowed down over and over again because you get cut off over and over. But it was a decently natural braking and distance following and steering. So anytime I did get cut off, or anytime the car in front of me did anything like speed up or slow down, it felt like a natural speed up or slow down instead of like a robotic speed up or slow down, like some others have had. I also wrote down it only really works on highways. So the route that we have started off in a parking lot and then pulls off onto another road with an entrance ramp and some turns and everything. It just didn't really work on those roads at all. Even though they're lined roads, regular roads people would drive on, didn't work on those roads. But as soon as you got onto the highway and a lined highway, everything would light up, I'd enable it, and I'd go. So it's really just best for highway driving, which is also true of a lot of these systems. And it's really reluctant to change lanes. So you can ask it to change lanes for you, but once you do, it checks the spot, it waits a couple seconds, and sometimes doesn't really want to change lanes or waits a little while for the car to pass. It's very reluctant to change lanes. So overall, I'm putting Blue Cruise as C tier for me, just because I feel like it's right in the middle. It's not too great at anything, but it is natural and it's fine. And if I'm tired on a highway, or if I've had a long day and I don't really feel like driving and there's a lot of traffic, I would enable it, just knowing that I'm probably going to get cut off a bunch and it's not going to make up any time. It's just going to sit in the middle lane or the right lane and just chill and be fine. So, Blue Cruise, C tier. So then next up was the Chevy Silverado EV with some extra experience factored in from a Lyriq, both with GM's Super Cruise. So this was interesting. I remember I had the Lyriq for a bit and I didn't really use Super Cruise much, but now this is the latest version of it. It's the latest and greatest for the GM self-driving suite in a bunch of their vehicles. And some good stuff here. So I wrote down, actively change lanes without me asking. So this could feel like a good thing or a bad thing depending on how assertive you want to be, but it got on the highway and without me even asking, it identified a faster lane and the slow traffic in front of me, flipped the blinker on, moved over confidently, and did all of that and started accelerating up to a better speed. I think that's great, honestly. I think that's very natural and human. So then I also wrote down, when I signaled, it would let me change lanes by steering and maintaining speed and then automatically re-engage. So if I saw a lane change I wanted to make, I would hit the signal and move over. And you would see on the screen that it would disengage the full self-driving element. And then when I'd get back into the middle of the lane, it would light back up again and enable. I think that's good too. It's again, natural if I just find something I want to do. It's available on more roads. So there were some entrance ramps and some longer roads that weren't highways that it was able to work on. And it was also very natural. It drove very normal. It has a closer minimum follow distance, and it reacted to things happening on the road really, really well. I'm putting this in B tier because it does all of the same stuff well that Ford's system does, but it just works in more places and is more able to act like a human and following closer, not get cut off as much, and then it's able to change lanes a little bit better than Ford's did. So yeah, B tier feels right for Super Cruise. I was impressed. It's just a little bit less than like full self-driving. It still disables from time to time, but this was good. I was happy to use Super Cruise. So then I hopped into the Mercedes system in this sweet AMG S63E Performance, and this system is called Drive Pilot. One thing to note about all these systems is they all have a different way of activating them. Like sometimes it would be a stock. A lot of times it would be like buttons on a steering wheel. This one was buttons on the steering wheel, and you'd have to like hit more than one button to get all of the parts of the system on. Anyway, once you figure it out, it's pretty easy. This one has its lane keep assist and then also active steering assist and auto lane change. And once they're all on, like everything on the dash lights up green. And they worked on pretty much every road. So that was good to see. It did a smart automatic lane change, which I wrote down and was happy. It also got cut off and handled it well. Basically all of these systems, and I think this is going to just be a safety thing, like they don't want to follow super close. So even at the minimum follow distance, they're leaving enough room to react pretty smoothly. So I guess this might be a New Jersey thing, but that means you're going to get cut off. And so how well does it react to getting cut off? Hopefully pretty smoothly and naturally. This one did. Honestly, the HUD graphics were the most impressive part of like overlaying the arrows on the ground and at your turns where you're navigating. But that's just a Mercedes thing. Often stopped auto steer and I would take over and it would automatically turn back on. So this is one thing where there were the lights on the dashboard telling me which parts of the system were on. And it would do the auto speed thing and keep the speed with the car in front of it, but very often it would disable the auto steer. And if the road starts turning, I gotta grab the wheel again. And then I'd hold it for a while, get myself in the middle of the lane, and then it would re-engage. And I don't know, it's kind of weird that part of the system would turn off and there were no chimes or confirmations other than the green lights on the dash about when things turned off and back on again. That was my real complaint with this system. I also wrote down kind of late and wide with turns, so not as natural at the actual driving. And actively asked for pressure on the wheel every few seconds. Another system also did this. If you don't put the pressure on the wheel, it shows a warning on the dash, and then we'll eventually start pulling over and doing an emergency stop, so you actually do have to put your hands on the wheel every few seconds. And manual lane changes, it didn't seem to want to do. So this one's an interesting mix. It's clearly a capable system. It's got all the sensors. When everything lights up, it all works. But it seemed a little more hesitant to have everything on all the time, and it didn't drive as naturally with the turns and things like that. So I'm also putting this C tier right in the middle. So then next up, I got in the Tesla Model 3. You can see it's not the refresh, but a hardware 3 car with self-driving version 12.5. And I'm also going to factor in some experience off camera with version 13.2.1 from a Cybertruck. This is the one that's iterating by far the most often. Right away, the difference was actually pretty stark because as we're leaving the parking lot, I hit the button to enable it on the steering wheel and it enabled right away, which none of the other systems would. I was at least 3-4 turns out onto a bigger road before any of the systems would turn on. This one, leaving the parking lot, it's already turned on, and it actually stopped for the stop sign and the trains that are like right between us and the main road. So anyway, this one basically works on every single road, which was a pretty big difference versus the other systems. The accelerator pedal can still work while leaving you in the self-driving system. So if you find yourself like too slow and you're about to get cut off, or if you need to accelerate out of a situation or something, you can hit the accelerator and it'll speed up, but then slow back down and stay in the self-driving system. I'll talk about why later, but I use that a lot in Teslas. But Teslas, I wrote very good human-like reactions to traffic slowdowns and getting cut off. One of the scariest things that can happen in a self-driving car, if you're like me and you're testing it and you refuse to interrupt it, is you're going highway speed and on the horizon you can see a slowdown in traffic where everyone's stopped and you're just hurtling towards them at highway speed. And impressively, the Tesla with enough distance saw all of that traffic and started slowing down well before, and even as it pulled up was like reasonable and it was firm on the brakes, but it was human-like, which I appreciated. Okay, sometimes starts a blinker and then cancels it. So this system is very willing, again, also to auto lane change. And so there's actually more than one mode of the self-driving, full self-driving. I think it's normal mode and assertive mode. Might even be 3. But if you have assertive mode on, this system is like a seriously capable New Jersey driver. It will accelerate into gaps not cut people off, but if you see a gap that's faster and the traffic in front of you is slow, it'll flip the blinker on and accelerate to make that gap before somebody pulls up. Where the slower modes, the other modes that are not assertive, will be more likely to let that car pass by before putting the blinker on and moving over behind it. But yeah, assertive mode was like Mad Max out here. It was very willing to jump into gaps and to turn really quickly and things like that. But I did notice a few times it would put the blinker on and then start the move and then see a car pull up and then stop, and it would actually turn the blinker off. This might have been the only system that actually turned the blinker off, now that I think about it. It also reacted to a car with a blinker on that was about to change into my lane. So somebody was on the right side, had a left blinker on, and the car slowed down and allowed him, before he made a move, to cut in. I thought that was very human-like. This is also the only one to actually stop at stop signs because it was the only one that worked on the roads with stop signs. It let me cancel merges as well with the stock. Manual lane change, absolutely perfect. The only fault that I really found is it seems like it's reading speed limits from signs, like visual signs, which can have a delay on when the speed limit actually changes. I feel like a lot of the other systems are getting it from GPS data or something else because they would be accurate on the correct speed limit of the road and would automatically move up to that speed. But with the Tesla, I'd be, exiting here at 25 miles an hour, and then I'd get on a road with a 50 mile an hour speed limit, but it would still think it's supposed to be 25 miles an hour. So I'm telling it to speed up instead of it automatically speeding up, or I'm hitting the accelerator to move it up. That's the difference. I think the one weakness with Tesla is it didn't update speed limits as quickly as I wanted. But honestly, the rest of it, A tier. I'm putting it at the top. It is not S tier because it's not perfect, and it does have some room to grow, and it's a little bit skittish sometimes. And like I said, it's not always up to date with speed limits, but I'm putting Teslas, after doing them back to back to back, it's definitely A tier. So then last but not least was BMW's system. We had a BMW 530i xDrive and we had BMW assisted driving. This is the only one that we didn't have the most high-end available software because there is assisted driving plus, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I'll explain the difference. There's like multiple buttons on the steering wheel. You got to enable it. Once you get it all going, it lights up on the dash and you're good. Doesn't do turns very well. There is an assisted lane change feature. It seems like it was disabled in the driver assistance settings because it didn't work for me. But the main thing that I was annoyed by, which is the difference between assisted driving and assisted driving plus, is this one asked for a touch on the steering wheel every 5 seconds, not exaggerating. And it asks for a lot of pressure on the steering wheel. So almost all of the others, when they would tell you to, hey, pay attention and have a hand on the wheel, something would light up on the dash and all you'd have to do is one of these, just a little tug, a little toggle, or just rest your hand here and there's enough pressure for it to know, okay, there's a hand on the steering wheel. I don't have to warn them every 5 seconds. The BMW asked for like a full wiggle, and that started to get annoying because if you're going on a straight road, every 5 seconds you have to really put pressure on the wheel. That got really annoying. But I think Assisted Driving Plus has full hands-free cruise control, which wouldn't have annoyed me every 5 seconds. So I think that's a good difference to mention. This was also, manual lane changes were extremely quick. I would hit the blinker and it would immediately start that lane change and move over, and it was very assertive. So I love that. And also this was one that was decent and natural on highways. You can always accelerate to override. It has follow distance control and it had good speed control, but I feel like I'm doing next to as much thinking about input as regular driving with the poking the wheel every 5 seconds. And it also is one that chimes off, but doesn't chime back on when some part of the system re-engages. So it's good to know if you're on a curved road or something, as soon as auto steer disables, I need to know, and that's when it chimes, and that's when I have to take the wheel and continue the turn. But then once you get out of the turn and you center yourself in the lane, I kind of just want it to turn back on automatically. It does, but with no chime. You just have to see the green on the dash. So it worked on about the same number of roads as the others, basically highways and some other major roads. So I'm also giving BMWs a C tier. And that's where they all line up. So this is a long video, but I learned a lot from this process, basically, and I hope you did too. But mainly the thing that people keep asking me to do is test, okay, is Tesla self-driving really the best? Are there really better systems out there? in regular day-to-day life than what Tesla offers. From my experience, now that I've tested these 5, I could have added a couple. I mean, Rivian has some. I could have done some more, but I think now that I've experienced these, I think with my tier list, it's pretty clear that Tesla's has the major advantage of just working on more roads. You can pull out of a parking spot in a ShopRite and enable it, and it will start by trying to navigate out of the parking lot. Like, it's that much more inclusive of more roads than the others. But I think when it comes down to just getting on the highway, getting in the middle of the lane and just turning it on and letting it do its thing, all of these systems are very capable. They all handled traffic very well. They all get cut off and handle it decent levels of well. I think it's impressive that we've gotten this far with full self-driving on so many different systems, but yeah, it's nowhere near done. That's the thing. None of these are full, forget about it, seat facing the other direction, like hands off, no steering wheel in the car levels of good yet. We're not there yet with these systems. So that's what I learned. Okay, hopefully you learned something too. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.